can bring back your love someday. I will be there. I will be fight, baby, fight.
Could Solomon's sigils actually be ancient circuit boards? The intricate designs in the Lesser Key of Solomon bear a striking resemblance to electromagnetic patterns. Were they used to harness human loosh or even etheric energy? Think about it. Quartz embedded in ancient megalithic structures could have functioned like motherboards, connecting entire cities as massive power grids. The energy fields they generated may still resonate today. What if humanity is unknowingly tapped into those ancient frequencies, subtly influenced by energies beyond our understanding? Could this be part of a hidden, forgotten technology? Mysteries encoded in stone, in sigils, in time itself.
Hello again. Being involved in the occult, I'm not just simply satisfied with, reinventing the wheel or not testing myself. And I'm constantly testing myself. Laboratory type scenarios to test the idea of magic and how it's working. And if you're interested in the occult and sorcery and magic and so on, and you want to actually practice it, you've got to actually do this. You see, magic is not about, the fairy godmother and make your wish come true. You've got to, it's like being a warrior, a soldier, and sometimes you have to do bad things or dark things. And that's okay only if it's justified. So I have never cursed anyone directly, ever. I don't think so. I think, like I said, when I was a kid, I did, from David Conway's book, and then I instantly regretted it, and I was probably 11 or 12, and I still haven't done it since. And it's a dark road to go down, but that's not to say I don't deflect negative energy put towards me, and I do that all the time. And again, basically, the result of deflecting a curse or a spell upon the one who gave it to you is they become mentally insane. They become unhinged, and they sink to levels that nobody around them, in terms of their phobias and stuff, they don't want to be with them. They go, no, it's gone a bit too far. This person is a bit, it's gone beyond anger and vendetta. This person is profoundly sick. And that's how you really get them back, because what you do is you turbocharge their madness, and so they expose it to everyone else, and the next thing they know that they're isolated, and it's the hermit card in reverse. And they've only got other dregs for company, and even them dregs turn on them eventually as well. And that's how that's the safest way of doing it. Now, a few years ago, I was involved in a situation where I had to defend a loved one of mine, and it involved bullying at a workplace, and the bullying took place at a restaurant where she was working, and it caused tremendous hardship for this friend of mine and her husband. Her husband at the time was unemployed, and she badly depended on this job to pay her bills and pay their bills and look after the kids and stuff. And at the same time, the woman that she was working for at this cafe was an absolute female psychopath who was torturing her, bullying her, getting the other female staff to make fun of her, and so on. She asked me for help. I only helped because I saw the situation the family was in and what it was doing to her. A very beautiful woman, and she was aging fast. So I felt I had no choice other than to get involved in this. This was the first time I successfully used electronics in a sigil. Now, this is important. This is really important. When you create a sigil and to say, produce your will, say you want to damage someone's business, what happens is it's basically you're focusing on this thing, and it's acting almost like a radio transmitter, and it's pushing forces within the electromagnetic spectrum, which, you read my book Sorcery, which impact upon unseen forces, what we call dark matter energy. And there's a shunting effect, and at the other end of that, the electromagnetic spectrum effects happen again, and this is where the result takes place. But you've got to make that initial push, of the electromagnetic spectrum part, which is essentially an extension of your nervous system, into so strong that it will push the unseen forces of dark energy matter and create the effect you want on the end. So this gave me an opportunity to have a go at something I've been meaning to try. I'll put a diagram down. Well, you'll see it appearing on the screen now. Now, this is basically how it worked and how I devised it. I think I'm not saying I'm the first person to come up with this idea, but I'm definitely someone who can say that I achieved spectacular results with it. Now, I thought long and clearly about how to get this person back and the other people she worked with who were bullying my friend. And I went to the cafe. I hung out there. I looked at the water supply. I thought about putting a sigil on the incoming water pipe, so all the food would, and all the drink and all the tea and coffees would taste horrible. And that was an interesting idea, but I couldn't. It would be kind of obvious. I thought about doing other things. I thought about even giving them a piece of artwork as a donation, because they didn't know that I was so close to this person, their family. And so I was sitting there and I was having a cup of coffee, and they were playing a classical music station that's very popular here in Ireland. That's played all over the country. And I went back and asked my friend, do they play any other radio station except this popular classical station called Lyric FM? And they go, no, she only ever plays Lyric FM because she tries to make out she's classy and cultured. I had her. So I went home, and what I did was I ordered the components off the internet to build an FM transmitter. The FM transmitter I set to the frequency of Lyric FM. What I did then was, when it was going out to the antenna, on the positive feed of the antenna, what I did was, the transmitting part, was I don't know if you've seen them, but they're these markers you can buy that are used in it. You can actually create electronic diagrams that work on paper. And so the sigil was created in the electronic marker. It's like solder. And so that was then hardwired through I soldered that directly. I created it on a piece of MDF. And then I soldered that directly into one of the feeds of the FM transmitter, and out again from it. So the signal, my sigil was transmitted on the same, my seal was transmitted on the same frequency as Lyric FM that was playing constantly in the cafe. Now the sigil said, I can't go into detail and I can't draw it for you, but it basically said, all this, all the food and all the food and drink in here tastes foul. What I did then was I put it into a small, like those mini envelopes that you get, sort of like thank you cards in, and then tied it up nicely, put double-sided tape, went back to the cafe and stuck it under with a 9-volt battery, stuck it under, and I did it during a festival week where there would be thousands of people in the town, underneath the table, right? So, and because the transmitter used so few milliamps, I used an actual, I did a solid state, I made a complete analog old-fashioned type one, that the transmission of my sigil on that frequency, I also created a signal generator. It was a small signal generator using a capacitor to create the pulse. So there was always a transmission. The transmission was what's the word? Inert. It was basically just a pulse of signal until it hit the sigil I had created and put that out through the FM transmission. So it was almost like my will amplified. Within a week, she was sued by somebody who got ill over eating the food. Within a month, the place was closed down. Absolute success. Worked tremendous. What was the key there was that the signal was transmitted on the same radio frequency as the radio station playing. Everyone would be listening to George Gershwin or Mozart or Baroque music coming from this classical music station. It was going into their consciousness. This is what people talk about, like, oh, the elites use stuff to get us. This is how we can get them back. The sigil was transmitted on the exact same frequency that the Lyric FM was on. So it was entering into the minds of people all around the table, on the table, in the restaurant, who were eating the food. And I have no qualms about it. This person was an absolute monster. Everyone hated her. She fired staff like this, left, right, and the other, and then she hired dregs to pick on people like my friend. And she's now basically not doing nothing. And when she tried to sell herself off as the queen of the town when she had the restaurant, and now she's the queen of nothing. And I don't know how, the transmitter went on and on, because a lot of people that goes to these kind of cafes, they're institutionalized, so they'll go there every day. And because I put it in there before a festival, it was a max number of people that was visiting there. And so that was it. So the electronic spell worked. And so you can try this at yourself at home. Again, don't do it unless you've got really good justification. And secondly, you've got to build the circuit yourself. You can buy online, no problem, FM transmitter circuits, plus the PCB board with the circuit with the wiring and already in it, and then you can buy those markers that do the electronic that can carry electronic current on them, and away you go. And it's a way I've taken the sigil, the seal, the talisman into the 20th century, really. And I'm sure other people, like in the early days of electronics, but this is basic. I mean, I got this idea from no one else. I'm sure other people have thought of it. But since then, I've been experimenting with other things. I've also put one on the metal spire in the centre of Dublin, and of protection and both anyone bothering me, and to deflect them. And so this idea of electronics and magic is coming back into the fold again, and it shouldn't be just in the hand of scientists. Because remember, magic is an art and a science. They both work together, and yeah, that's it. It worked, and magic is just like any other art form. It develops. It has its trends, but it also has its classic ways of doing things, and it's full of improvisation. And so there you go, another one of my secret tips that's now out there with the world, and use it wisely and use it fairly. Thank you.
Viral emoji demon sigil saga continues. Are emojis the modern day hieroglyphs the #1 language in the world? Let's check it out. With this thought in mind that they're building the new world, the Tower of Babel re-babbling again, from Mystery Babylon, Tower of Babel all the way to the future Mystery Babylon, completed, is language and all of technology based off of demon sigils, which has even worked its way in through the emojis. I've done several videos before about the components of circuitry, and electrical components all resemble these demon sigils, which also resemble the ancient Nordic runes or Paleo-Hebrew or ancient star markings / constellations, all tying into the spiritual realm and fallen spiritual technology and beings. Plenty of engineers have left me comments saying that they thought that people were just bored when they put designs into circuit boards, and they look exactly like some of these demon sigils. This whole suppressed old world where the entire earth is a grid, an electrical grid. You even see how pyramids in circuit boards or cities in circuit boards from an aerial view look identical. Circuit board, fiber optic, and lasers all come from post-World War II Nazi Nef tech. Werner von Braun and others given secret, occult fallen angel tech. And even with Project Paperclip, some of these scientists were funneled in to the United States. Science, the word, and the origin itself is very interesting, as well as some secrets of alchemy and the elements, which we'll be getting into in the future. I showed you a list of how some of these summoning sigils look like a diagram of some electrical components. Also, that whole story with Ben Franklin and the kite being a summoning sigil for the Lord of Power, reminds me of the gravity story with an apple. What's up with all these stories? Are they even real? So anyway, with this Ben Franklin discovering electricity story with the kite, the demon summoning sigil for the God of Power, and then all the L words tying into electricity, elite, and other L words I've covered before, is all of this technology a way for fallen spirits to interface through? And also, why do some cymatic patterns also look like sigils, and frequency has everything to do with the spirit realm? Opening doors. Sigils and star markings found all over the old world, kind of like phone numbers that open up doors. This all even ties in with stuff like Ohm, future plug coming, and other mandalas in the whole ancient world just giving us frequency displays. This totally ties into the entire matrix grid that we're all connected to. What's up with all these 5G towers? 5G, pentagram. This is all for entertainment, by the way. How does this connect to mania, the devil's tongue, Hollywood, elite celebrities, reptilians, pretty much the theory of everything, and of course the device that we're all holding in our hands right now? Is this smartphone based on the Kabbalah tree of life itself? And all this technology, spiritual technology, that we always carry with us all the time, all based on demon sigils and this entire electric circuit board that we're all living on, and even made its way into the #1 language in the world possibly now, emojis, modern day hieroglyphs. More coming soon. Until then.
YouTube, it's Donnie here. I got a quick little message, something I had to share with y'all. Recently I've been studying a little bit more into the mysticism religion that Freemasons practice and the elites practice. This is something that not a lot of people talk about, but it's the origin of science and magic. It's called alchemy. And what I found, cut to the chase. What I found is they use a lot of symbolism, just like Freemasons use a lot of symbolism. But what I'm realizing about these symbolism is not all these symbols are just symbols. These symbols mean something. They're spells. They give power to things, strength to things, cause chaos to things. There are spells in some of these symbols. Not all symbols, not all logos, just some. And I'm finding a lot of symbolism in electronics, meaning the wiring diagrams at the atomic level. When you follow atoms through an electronic circuit, there is a component schematic that goes with it. And it's a symbol for each component and the path that the electrons flow. Well, let me start off by telling you that everybody knows that Lucifer works backwards to forward. Just like we move from A to B, he moves from B to A. As above, so below. It's a mirror image of everything that we do. That's Lucifer. Okay? If you spoke backwards all the time without control, you would most likely be possessed. Okay? So, with that being said, I've also just kind of put a few things together. Well, looking at schematics, electronic components, electrons flow from negative to positive. That's how our equipment works. Every equipment that you plug into the wall or put a battery in, energy flows negative to positive, not positive to negative. Ground to positive. So, now hear me out. This might be a little far-fetched, but I'm noticing some serious similarities in electronic diagrams and symbols. And when I tell you what these symbols are, it's going to freak you out. Okay? First off, let me start off with this. This is something I just drew from memory. This is a schematic that manipulates energy. Okay, see it here? Manipulates energy and stores it. How you do that? AC voltage comes in here. This is a ground symbol. Now pay attention to these symbols because they're going to be significant later. This is a ground symbol, comes up through a capacitor which stores energy. Come up through a resistor which increases the amperage. Through a coil which stores and upgrades the energy, steps it up. Another capacitor stores the energy. This circuit here takes the power that I put in this circuit, the alternating current, and changes it to direct current, manipulates it. You see what I'm saying? So now we're manipulating electrons at an atomic level. And then here, the output power goes to an external antenna. So right there you have internal power, rectified, manipulated, and pushed outward into an airborne signal. In that small circuit, you manipulate and store electrons at the atomic level. Now, to me, I think there's some no-no in there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just the fact that we're manipulating electrons at the atomic level just does not seem right. So right there, electronic devices tell me there's some satanic, essence about them. From the very first television to the handheld you hold now, there's some satanic essence about them. So now, just by looking at these basic wiring diagrams, let's move on to, okay, this is a Masonic, very famous Masonic symbol. This is kind of irrelevant to what we're talking about. But here's a quick definition of alchemy. It's a philosophical and proto-scientific tradition practiced throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia. It aimed to purify, mature, and perfect certain objects. Common aims were chrysopia and transmutation of base metals into noble metals, particularly gold. Now, do you understand what that is? They made a material that could turn base metals into gold and an elixir that could give you immortality. This is crazy. This is stuff that Freemasons work on and practice and part of their lives, their everyday lives. This is still practiced today, alchemy. It's a cross between science and mysticism. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you, first off, hold on, let's go. I'm going to skip past this because I don't want you to read it. Okay, here we go to another wiring diagram, kind of like similar to the one that I made. Okay, so here you have more diodes, their shape, their polarities, transformers. You got some more grounded out circuits here, okay? And then we'll switch, got some more advanced here. Now really, really look at these. Look at these symbols, okay? Because now I'm going to blow your mind. Look at these symbols. So now when you turn on power and you run electrons through these circuits from negative to positive, you know, you're giving life to this circuit. You're giving power to this circuit on an elemental form, okay? Not just giving it power by thinking about it. You're giving it elemental power, real power, turning it on. Now, look at these symbols and compare them to these symbols, okay? Look at some of these symbols. That's a ground symbol there. That's an antenna symbol with a ground symbol and a totally complete electronic circuit right there. These are the symbols for batteries and airborne signal. And this is the symbol for ground into a coil. Electronic symbols. Now, do you know what you're looking at right now? You're looking at sigils to summon demons. These sigils are used to summon demons, specific by name. Babilel, Barkilel, all the ones with B's. I mean, sigil after sigil. These are specifically used to summon demons. Now, I have found many of these symbols in electronic schematics. So what if, now hear me out, what if every time you use specific electronic components, you are helping in the aid to summon major demons? Do you ever notice the days where you use your electronic devices more and more each day? You have the worst luck you've ever had in your life, but the days you go on vacation, you drop your electronic devices, you drop off the grid, and you had some of the best memories you've ever had, and you keep flicking back to those memories, and there's a reason why, because those memories are not tainted with Lucifer. That's why. We're constantly tainting our lives with Satanism, and this is how they're doing it. They're doing it ninja style. So you don't even know that what you're using is helping the aid to summon major demons. Now, I know that sounds far-fetched, but this is a sigil list from F News magazine. Here are the following lists of several demons and their sigils of summoning. Now, this popular magazine is telling you how to summon demons. Now, this is today's times, people. Please, I repeat, pray for your soul. I mean, you can look at some of these other sigils, and they're not just electronic. They're parts of logos that you see in major corporations and stuff like that. Symbols they use for the moon and the sun. I mean, this symbolism is used by us all the time. There's a reason why when you're in second grade, you take spelling. Because what they've taught you is a method of casting spells. Just your speech, putting sentences together is a form of spell casting. They've laid out a whole magical realm of reality that we take part in every day, and we have no fucking idea. Well, some of us don't. Some of us do. But here's what this person wrote from F Magazine. Thank you. Our master acknowledges your vigilance for giving all those 89 sigils. But those sigils look a lot like this and more like this. This is more advanced wiring diagrams here. You don't mean to tell me those summoning sigils don't look a lot like this? This is just one aspect of electronics wiring diagrams. There's many others that describe many other components and many other laws of physics. So how is that far-fetched that you might use something from Apple, who has been known to be very satanic? How do you know every time you don't use your iPhone, you're not summoning Belial or Cazamel or some other big name demon? All I can say is, I know it sounds crazy, but do some more research yourself into alchemy and do some more research into the crossover and power structure of symbols. These symbols bring life and power to these demons. Food for thought. God bless.
Noted that the symbol used for positive terminals in electricity is the same as the alpha tau or the cross of Ash Wednesday, the alpha male, a plus sign. There are positive and negative charges, and maybe that's part of the reason that even the holy angels have similar symbols attached to them. Just food for thought. While the root of language may be based in the occult, grammar from grimoire, or spelling from spellcasting, for instance, not everything occult is meant as a curse or a source for the demonic. It may look that way based on the sex and violence predominantly shown on televisions and flat screens everyone is now calling black scrying mirrors. But everything in creation seems to have a positive and negative aspect, not always evil. And even if there were a better, more natural energy source, no doubt it will lead us to the same place at the end of the Tauroboros serpent I was pointing out anyway, a path to enslavement and final destruction. Some cultures say we've had a worldwide reboot at least 3 or 4 times already. Who are we to say they're wrong? Prove them wrong. I'm sure others like me are tired of people saying everything is evil now, or are evil when they aren't Christian, let alone hypocritically typing it out on the evil Satan's technology.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
This may all tie into a larger conspiracy theory that states that the world population is much less than actually reported. The theory goes that circuits and microchips are demonic sigils used to imprison or contain demons, which are then used to perform computational tasks. The theory goes even further, and says that instead, the demons created the internet as a way to influence mankind without technically breaking the King's Pact. Not to be taken too seriously, this theory came about as a meme, since the gold patterns on the microchip are similar in appearance to the seals mentioned in the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is a grimoire that covers various demons and methods of summoning them. King Solomon is said to have had control over demons or jinns, trapping them within the Great Seal. As a result of this, they can never reveal themselves nor whisper to mankind. However, since the demons are bound by King Solomon's pact, they had to find a loophole, which is influencing mankind through the internet. Since they technically do not speak with or reveal themselves to humans, they do not break the pact. According to the meme, creating ways to see without seeing and speak without speaking.